Recently, we got our first look at Dynamite's new official Ben 10 comic book run, which is set to take these classic aliens in a more gruesome and modernized take, as well as bringing some real-life applications such as the military getting involved to obtain the Omnitrix, since, let's face it, they absolutely would. And all of this news has really sparked a lot of excitement and interest for a Ben 10 live-action movie, since, we never really got that. Well, a decent one that is. So today I thought, why not take my Photoshop skills and use them to create an epic poster design for a non-existent Ben 10 live-action movie. And well, that's what we're gonna do today. Starting off with the cast, creating a title, and then finally putting all of that together into one epic poster design. You definitely don't wanna miss it. Let's get straight to it. Of course, to take on a poster like this, we need a ton of aliens, and luckily for me, recently I just stumbled upon this guy on TikTok who takes these aliens from Ben 10 and turns them realistic using AI. I really love some of these alien designs. In fact, I was quite amazed at what a great job AI can do when it comes to realistifying Ben 10 aliens. Since if you've been a follower of this channel for a long time, you might know that I've actually realistified Ben 10 aliens in the past myself. But now seeing how much better AI is at that, I actually don't know whether I should be devastated or flabbergasted. Anyway, the point is, I really love these alien designs, so I thought I'd use them for this poster. And yeah, I know, I'm probably gonna get a ton of backlash for using AI, but let's be real here. If I were to try to realistify all of these aliens manually like back in the old days, it would take me ages. And as I said before, know that AI can do that job 20 times better and faster. I don't even think it's really worth the effort. Anyway, now that we got the aliens out of the way, I guess it's time to find some actors to use. I decided this movie was going to be based off on the Alien Force series, mostly because I just felt like if we were going to get an actual Ben 10 live action movie, they would probably just skip over the origin story, since everybody knows that. And second, I just felt like a teenager Ben would be more appealing to the big screens than a kid Ben, or maybe that's just me, I don't know. But with that on my mind, I went straight to the internet to find some actors to use. Now, one thing that you have to keep in mind here is that I didn't really spend a lot of time or effort into the casting, since I just felt like this part wasn't that important, because after all, it's really just about the poster anyway. That's why you clicked on this video. So I just decided to go with what was mainly mainstream and a popular choice, so of course I had to go with Tom Holland as Ben, Sadie Sink as Gwen, John Wesley Shipp as Grandpa Max, and this might not be much of a popular choice, but I decided to go with Timothy Chalamet as Kevin, because I just thought he looked the closest to Kevin, or maybe just me, I don't know. But either way, once the casting was in place, I went straight to Photoshop to edit these characters. Now, I didn't really spend a lot of time on them. The idea was mainly just replacing the faces, fixing the lighting and all of that, and after some time, here's what we came up with. With the casting and the characters out of the way, now the only thing left to do was designing a title for the movie, so let's just fire up Photoshop and get straight to it. First things first, we had to come up with a name for it, since I thought calling this movie just simply Ben 10 was too bland and simplistic. So for this I actually had a lot of title ideas, but eventually I came up to Ben 10 Convergence. Don't ask me why, it just sounded cool as heck, so I thought why not. Then it was just a matter of finding a cool font to use and adding a buttload of effects and filters to make the title, well, more cinematic and epic. This part was mostly just trial and error, seeing what works and what doesn't, but eventually just came to adding some extrusion and a ton of effects from bevel and emboss to make this whole thing work. To add the final little touches, I even decided to add this sort of nebula energy overlay behind the title for some more spice to it, and well, this is what we ended up with. Finally, after all of that, we can begin working on the actual poster, but before we do that, here's the basic concept idea I have in mind. First off, we're gonna have the title of the movie, then in the center there's gonna be the main characters like Ben, Gwen, Kevin and whatnot. In the bottom there's gonna be some sort of foreground with a cityscape back in the distance and Kevin's car driving off in a road, and at the top there's gonna be most of the Ben 10 aliens, and well, that's the whole concept. So now let's just finally fire up Photoshop and get straight to it. As always, this whole project first started with me importing the title and the other text elements from the movie. One side note here is that the movie credits here aren't actually legit. I just found some cheap PNG images of some movie credits to use since I was way too lazy to write all those movie credits myself manually, so there's that. Anyway, once I did that, I then brought down the main characters and started creating a quick composition to see how all of this poster could look like in the final results. Now, funny thing is that I actually had quite a lot of concept ideas for this poster, and if I'm gonna be truly honest here, I might have picked the weakest concept by far, but the reason why I went with this concept was mainly because the other concept ideas were too similar to my previous Avengers posters that I made, so I tried to do something more original here with this one. And another reason why I chose this concept was mainly because I really wanted to include Kevin's car in this poster somehow, since in the animated show it's quite an iconic thing, and basically this was the only concept that would work with that. Anyway, after some time I ended up with a composition like this, which I was pretty happy with, and well, from then on it was into the blending as usual. I first started by blending in the bottom part of the poster, since that was the most logical place to start from. The most important thing here was to make the city in the back quite a lot hazier to give a sense of atmospheric depth, since the city was quite further away, and that was also followed by adding some bright glows, since glows make everything better. Once I was done, I then moved on to blending in the foreground as well as Kevin's car. This consisted of making everything a bit darker, painting some shadows and highlights, as well as giving a purplish tint to the whole thing to match the sunset in the background. In the end, I was gonna swap the whole colors of the sunset for a blue one, but for now I decided to go with this sort of purple pinkish color. At this point I realized I had forgotten to add Gwen's magic powers on her hand, so well, I made sure to add those. And this is also where I got started into blending the main characters. Again, the process was pretty much the same, a lot of lighting correction, color correction and all that, but the most important thing here was actually adding the highlights, since that makes all of the difference in these kinds of posters. You've seen me do this process like a couple million times by now, so I'm not really gonna talk you through the whole thing, but if by any chance you wanna learn this, then I'd suggest you watch my previous other videos, particularly my Spider-Man Brand New Day video, since I explain this process in quite great detail. Also, if you really wanna learn, then the PSD file of this poster is currently available on my Patreon, where you can see all the later process behind it and also get an understanding on how this entire poster was built. So if you want that, then consider yourself becoming a Patreon, the link is on the description below. Anyway, once the main characters were set in place, then the only thing left to finish were the aliens, so guess what? Same story again, a lot of blending, highlights, that kind of stuff, but here's how that went. Now I know I can also hear you from miles away thinking, where's the villain in this poster? And to be fair, originally I wanted to add Vilgax in here, but I didn't, mainly for two reasons. First off, there just wasn't any decent realistic images of Vilgax that I could find online whatsoever. And second, even if I could find one, as you can probably see, this poster was so crammed up with so many characters that yeah, there was just no place for me to add him. But besides, Ben 10 has such a wide rogue of villains that it could be anyone. It could be Vilgax, it could be the Hybrid, it could be Agrigor, it could be anyone. So that's why I left the villain in this poster kind of a question mark, so that your imagination fills in the blank spots. Anyway, once all of that was finished, I then removed this ugly green solid color behind the aliens that only served as a placeholder until now, where I could finally add some light rays as well as some glows. And yeah, this really started improving the whole poster. I then decided I wasn't really a big fan of the foreground that much, so this is where I decided to drop another desert image, which I then blended it in and also made sure to add some haze in the back for a cooler effect. Oh, and also if you're wondering why I chose a desert foreground, that's because in the animated show they travel quite a lot through the desert with Kevin's car, so that's why. Another cool element I thought I could add here was some more fog in the foreground, since I mean it's a desert and there definitely has to be some fog around, so I made short work of that. Now to this point I still wasn't really happy with the foreground that much, so this is where I decided to make everything in the bottom quite a lot darker, as well as adding some headlights to Kevin's car for some more spice to it, and I'm not gonna lie, this really made everything a lot better. I still felt like this poster was a bit of a lackluster and it could use some more stuff in it, so this is where I decided to add some planets around in the poster. Since I mean it's Bantan and a big part of Bantan revolves around traveling to different alien planets, so I thought these could be some cool elements to add. This is also where I made the biggest and most drastic change. Throughout this whole process of me making this poster, I just wasn't really a big fan of the purple pinkish colors in the bottom. I mean, it just didn't really match with the overall aesthetics of Bantan and it just looked a bit off, so I decided to change that for a bluish color. And after some working around, it basically ended up going from this to this, which as you can see, it's 20 times better. At this point, the poster was pretty much finished. This was the part where I just add the finer little touches like lens flares, glows, overlays, and those kind of things. And of course, lastly, I added the camera raw filter, and well, here I present you the Bantan Convergence poster. As you can see, I went through some changes off screen. I changed the whole sky image in the bottom as well as adding some asteroids around at the top, since I mean a big part of Bantan revolves around space, so I thought that was fitting. But other than that, I'm really happy with the results. I think this poster turned out quite decent actually. But as always, I'm curious to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. And yeah, I think with all that being said, I guess that wraps this video for today. If you guys liked it, make sure to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I guess I'll see you in the next one.